How you doing today? My name is Bear, and behind the camera is my lovely wife Terry. Go ahead and turn around and say hi to everybody. No, come on, turn around. No? Are you camera shy? Okay. Maybe next time we get to meet her. Anyway, whether it's tailgating or just having a barbecue in the backyard with your best friends, whether you're using charcoal, gas, or propane, which is a gas, I guess, so natural gas, charcoal, or propane, Americans love to cook on the grill. And whether it's hot dogs, hamburgers, or maybe a fish swam its way under your grill, one of the things Americans love to cook is bratwurst. And it's actually number 8 on the top 10 list of things that people love to grill. So today I'm going to show you how to make some bratwurst. And bratwurst, you can pretty much do anything you want with. If you want to try something a little on the wild side, maybe some venison or wild boar if you can find it, or go get it yourself. If you want to stay more domesticated, beef, turkey, pork is what normal people think of when you hear the word brat. But today I'm going to show you how to make chicken brats, one of my favorite things to do. Now, as you can see, I've got everything kind of laid out right now. Some of the things that you're going to need, I always like to have a nice stack of clean towels ready to go. I've got some paper towels already, some latex gloves, you're going to need those. I've got my spices set out. I'll get to that here in just a second. You're going to need a good scale. I prefer digital. I've got a couple cutting boards here. I like the flexible ones. You can fold them up to dump your spices. I've got my casings. I like to use the natural casings, and I'll explain to you about that here in just a second. I've got a couple containers that I'm going to be using, and I've also got my meat grinder, and we'll get to that in just a second. The first thing we're going to do is I'm going to put on some gloves, and remember, once you touch the chicken, pork, or whatever you're using, you're going to want to be very careful not to touch anything else. That's called cross-contamination. And cross-contamination can get you very sick with all kinds of things with really long names that I don't know how to pronounce. But anyway, just be careful. That's kind of what the paper towels are for too. After you touch the chicken or whatever you're using, you can grab one of these to go open a door, turn on a faucet, whatever you're going to be doing. I've got my knives all set out, they're sharpened and ready to go. Like I told you, we're making chicken brats. Let me show you what we're going to use. Excuse me. Got some chicken meat here. And what I use is a 50-50 mix. I like to use the chicken breast, and I also like to use chicken legs or thighs. Now, I happened to get really lucky, and there was a local store here that actually had boneless, skinless legs on sale. So if you can find that, great. Another meat you can use is the thigh meat. If you can find the boneless, skinless, good. If you have to bone it, go ahead and bone it. It doesn't take too long. And if you want to leave the skin on it, you can. If you leave the skin on it, it's going to add a little bit of flavor, and it's also going to add some moisture to the meat. Now for your chicken breast, like I said, these are boneless, skinless. I always give them a once-over to make sure there's nothing in them that we need to cut out. Now all we're going to do is chop this up and get it ready to grind. You don't have to be fancy. You don't have to be precise. What I like to do is just leave them in about 1-inch pieces, just like so. It's real easy to do. Just cut them up, just like that. And that's all you're going to need to do, because we're going to, like I said, we're going to be grinding them here in a minute. With the legs you want to be a little bit more careful with, strictly because these have a lot of cartilage in them. So you're going to want to go through, make sure there's no big pieces of cartilage, make sure there's nothing in there that's not going to taste good, like that right there. See, there's a little piece of bone. You need to make sure stuff like that is taken out. Ground up bone doesn't taste really good. So, other than that, it all feels pretty good. And again, All we're doing is cutting it up just enough that it'll go through the grinder. And I'll explain more about my grinder here in a minute. Now, if there's a little bit of fat on it, that's fine. You're going to want the fat. The fat's going to give it moisture. That's why we're using either dark meat, which is either the legs or the thighs, because you're going to want some moisture. The breast meat and chicken is very lean. So there, we've got that all cut up, and that's ready to go. Just going to put this back on the plate. Now the other thing that we're going to use is some pork fat. Pork fat is also going to give us the moisture that we need. Again, I've got a local market here in town that actually sells this. And pieces like this, that's really what you're looking for. Just small pieces. If you have a larger piece, something like this, again, just cut it up. If there's some pork meat on it, that's fine. But they did a pretty good job, so we really don't have to cut a whole lot of this up. So just like that. It's all cut up, cubed up, ready to go. Now when I mix this, like I said before, I'm looking for a 50-50 of the light meat and the dark meat. And the ratio, and I've experimented with this a couple different times. I actually started out with like a 90-10, which is 90% meat, 10% fat. They came out good, a little dry. If you're more concerned about the fat content, you can go with a 90-10. I actually went down as far as a 70-30. 70-30 was a lot better, but again, they're a little bit more greasy. So, general rule, 80-20, and that's kind of what I'm going with here. So, I've got an 80-20 mix that I'm using the pork fat and then the light and dark meat. Now I work in 5-pound batches mainly because it's easier for me to handle, and that's what my sausage stuffer handles. That's what the hopper holds, is 5 pounds. So if you're doing 5 pounds, just remember 4 to 1. 4 pounds of meat, 1 pound of fat. So after you get this all diced up and you're ready to go, what you're going to want to do is put it in a container and cover it and put it in the freezer for at least 30 minutes. What that's going to do is it's going to inhibit any bacteria from growing on the food. Bacteria really thrives between 40 degrees and 140. So, and that's kind of the federal guidelines, 40 to 140. So you either want to keep it above 140 or below 40. That's why we stick it in the freezer for a half an hour. So what I'm going to do is just sit this, almost caught me touching the handle without grabbing one of these. I'm going to just set that in the refrigerator right now. And I've already got some meat cut up and ready to go. The other thing, there's 3 C's to be safe: covered, clean, and cold. So we've got this covered. After I diced everything up, I put it in the container and I pushed down. Just, you can use plastic wrap or something. I just grabbed a piece of parchment paper that I had. Excuse me, stuck it in. And this has been in there for about a half an hour. And as you can see, it is not frozen, but it's cold. It's very cold. And that's what you're looking for. So, before we grind, what I'm going to do is assemble the grinder. This grinder I have, it's a number 10. It came with 3 sausage stuffing plates. It also came, or sausage stuffing tubes. It also came with 3 plates, the auger, the blade. And the reason why I chose this model, number 1, as you can see, it's completely disassembled. That makes for great cleanup, easy cleanup. The other reason I chose this model is because it has all steel gears. Something to keep in mind, because I've had this for a while, and not to be funny, but I put it through the grinder and it still holds up nice. It's got a nice little compartment here in the back for the cord. It's also got a compartment here. You can store your grinding plates and anything extra. The compartment in the back is actually large enough to put your tubes and anything else. So we're going to assemble this real quick. It's real easy. Slide that in. Here's your auger. The auger is going to go in and it fits into the motor just like that. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take our blade, put the blade on. Here's my grinding plate. Slide the grinding plate on. And for this I'm using the coarse grinding plate. To me it gives it a little bit better texture. And we're going to grind this stuff a couple times anyway, but I like to use the coarse grinding plate. We're going to put the collar on. That holds everything in place. And then last, the tray. The tray goes right there on top.